On today's show, another hot take. Matt Fontana is here to deliver it. It's part 2 of our ECT reunion on Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. You can find the show wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, wherever else you might listen. Leave us a 5-star review. Drop some nice words in the comments as well. You can also check the show out on YouTube. Just search Locked On Cavs. If you're watching this video, hit that thumbs up button for me. Make sure you're subscribed as well. Click the notification bell so you know when the freshest Locked On Cavs content hits the channel. A proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode, of course, brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Hi again, everybody. I'm Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cavaliers, places such as 92.3 The Fan, Cleveland Magazine, and, of course, a stop once upon a time at ESPN Cleveland with these two gentlemen, Matt Fontana and Nick Paulus. I used to work with these guys every day at ESPN on ECT. Matt now is at BIGPLAY. You can check him out, the Matt Fontana Show, every day, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Nick Paulus still at ESPN Cleveland. Make sure you're tuned into everything that he does there. Spends a lot of time covering the Cavs. On yesterday's show, Nick gave us his hottest take about the Cavs offseason. Today's show, all about Matt Fontana's hottest Cavs take. Matt, what do you have for us?
I don't know if I got Nick covered on this one. I'm already nervous. It's not going to be hot enough, but he's
shaking in his boots.
I don't like it. Nick, I might already have to say, man, you might have won the hot take on this, but I will say that my hot take is the Cavs will regret and made a giant mistake by not trading Darius Garland away this summer.
Ooh.
Garland, I look at it from a couple standpoints. Number one, if he can get back to that all-star level that was there a couple of years ago, then I see what we're kind of working with. Guys, I don't know if he's going to get back there. I really have a fear about his game. And he is an undersized guard. When he can shoot the three, then that's the perfect complement for Donovan Mitchell. But part of what made Darius Garland so good in that all-star year was he was able to be ball dominant. I think in the 2 years that we've seen Donovan Mitchell here, we know Donovan Mitchell runs the offense better. It's better for the team when he is bringing the ball up the court. I've not seen Darius Garland make the proper adjustments to be able to play alongside Donovan Mitchell. I also have a lot of concern about being a guard-led team. You can point to Steph Curry. Sure, I get it. He's a generational player. He's one of the best to ever do it. How many other legitimately contending teams can you say are a guard-dominant team? I'll give you Jalen Brunson with the Knicks. I struggle, right? Everybody's
and
after
Edwards.
Yeah, and Edwards. Yeah, I'll give you that. You're right. Okay, and Edwards with the Timberwolves. And Shai is like a guard.
Yeah, Shai is a guard.
He's a guard, but not a point guard. Not like a.
He is a lead guard. He's a lead guard. You're copping out. I told you no copping out on my show.
That was on last episode. It wasn't this episode. It was last episode. So there are a couple, right? But especially with the fact, what's Shai? Those guys are 6'4", right? Well, that's neither one of the guys that we have in our backcourt. When you add in the factor that Garland, every game he's getting hit in the face. Every single game he's taking a shot. I think it's weighing on him. I think it got in his head. Then the trade request, right? And I'm never one of these people that, you made a trade request, you're out of here, man. And what did Baker say about Duke Johnson? He was like, you're either on this train or you're off, right? Or get off the
tracks,
right? Yeah, get off the tracks, right? Get off the train, Duke. So I'm not going to do that to him. But, what led to that? I think there's doubt. I think there's self-doubt there on what it is. Now, if Mitchell wants to play alongside him and if Kenny Atkinson really wants to be like, I want to see what this experiment is worth and all that, the final reason, and I'm not saying this is the number one, it's a lot of the concerns. Guys, if I can get him out of here and off of that max contract that he has, and you can free that money up over the next couple of years, I'd have done that for a draft pick. And I know it's not how the NBA works. You got to make the money work. I have serious doubts about Darius Garland. And when you couple it with the fact of the contract that he signed, if there was an out, and even if you lose that trade, even if this is something where you're clearly not upgrading the roster for the long haul, or it's more of just moving on from Darius Garland, I would have done it. And the reports are what? The Spurs called. And they said, we want to get something. And the Cavs asking price was through the roof. I think that was a giant mistake. I think that was just such a misstep on Kobe Altman's part. Now, if you would, upset Donovan Mitchell because Donovan Mitchell really wants Darius Garland here, gee, wait a minute. When do we have a superstar player that said don't do something? And never mind. Anyway, so it's not quite to that level, about like Garland, that Mitchell's pounding the table. So you got to keep Darius Garland. I'd sit down with Donovan Mitchell and just say, hey, this is your team. You are our ball dominant guard. We don't think this is going to work between the two. And now we can invest fully in Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, which, again, I don't know if those two are going to work together or not. But I think they missed a huge opportunity. And, again, it would have been more of they shed the salary. They can move on from it. Would people rate them over the coals maybe if they didn't get a lot in return? Like, I guess I wouldn't have because I'm just of the mindset I don't know if Darius Garland fits here anymore. I really don't.
I have more confidence that Jared Allen and Evan Mobley are going to work together than Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell.
Really?
I do. And for whatever reason, it probably because Kenny worked with Jared Allen in the past and he has a future and a mindset for Mobley. Obviously, I feel like that sort of fits a little bit better. I know that it's away from the 1-3-1. Donovan Mitchell, 3 shooters and a big, that mindset that the Cavaliers ended up winning, a lot of games with this season.
Where have I heard that before?
I don't know. Somewhere.
Some guy named Brian.
Yeah, Brian Windy something, whatever.
Something along those lines.
Some guy that will probably.
I miss Windy. I miss talking to Windy. Tell him I said hi.
Windy's the best. Yeah.
I'll let him know.
Whenever he gets back from wherever France. The Olympics, whatever, big time guy. But no, I think like this team is it currently constructed the best way? Matt, you're right. It probably isn't, but Kenny does believe in the core four. He does.
Does he though, or does he, Nick? Or was this? Listen, this is the best. This is the best situation we have, though. But it's like, for Kenny Atkinson, he was always going to take that job, right? There's only so many of these jobs out there, and I understand that Borrego or whoever else they want to find. He was going to take the job, and I think I truly think the company line is, well, this is just kind of the situation we're in, and
but I don't know.
Leave it, like I don't know.
I just don't know if you were to trade Darius Garland now, as you're saying that they're gonna. Woe the day that they didn't make the trade. For what though? You would have gotten a couple of draft picks. Yeah,
maybe if they would have pulled the trigger on a Brandon Ingram or something like that.
But that wasn't going to happen without Jared Allen, and Jared Allen was not going anywhere, especially after what you saw with Donovan Mitchell and his IG posts about when JB Bickerstaff took shots at Jared Allen. Immediately within 24 hours, Donovan Mitchell's posting photos, hugging Jared Allen. That's not something to shake our heads at. I think with Darius Garland, you have to, if you're going to trade him, you have to trade him at the right time. This certainly is not the right time to trade Darius Garland. His value is as low as it's ever been. Now, if you come out and you start off the year 10-13 and you're a below 500 team and there's issues all about, but Darius is averaging 22 points and 8 assists and it's just not flowing well, maybe then you can trade him and get a boatload for it. But right now, his trade value is as low as it gets. I don't know if they would, if you make that trade and you're going to, woe the day that it happens.
That's the difference. I think it could get worse. I think his trade value could actually go down.
I don't know that it can.
I don't know.
I don't know that it can. Look at the year that he's coming off of and how just objectively bad he was, where he looks like a shell, Matt, of the guy who made the All-Star team 2 years ago. He looked nothing like that player, but you also have to look at why that was the case. So he's got the jaw injury. And for me, it's tough for me to be critical of him in certain aspects, coming off that injury, because I know that if I lost 15 pounds and I had my jaw wired shut for 4 weeks and had to drink my meals through a straw, I might be a little bit apprehensive in going to the basket. And that's where I think a big downturn in his year is that he just was not as aggressive going to the rim, and he didn't finish nearly as well once he got there. So you look at that and say, okay, well, if that happened to me, I'd probably feel pretty similar. So I can't be too harsh there. And then you also take a look at there were some other injuries that he dealt with. I think there was a wrist thing early on in the year. He couldn't catch a rhythm. There was I believe a death in the family that just really didn't have his mind where it needed to be. And he was, at times leaving the team on off days to go be with family in different cities. And all that stuff added up to be a nightmare of a season. I don't think there's a better way to describe it. So when you think about that, I think it would have been smart for other teams to try and trade for him. Like, I think it was smart of the Spurs to call the Cavs and say, hey, we want Darius Garland. But when you talk about his value and then think about the nightmare that he had of this season, that value, I don't know if it can get worse than it is right now. And in addition to what his value is, look at what the market is for point guards. DeJounte Murray, I think Darius Garland's peak is higher than DeJounte Murray's peak. The return that the Hawks got for him was not all that impressive. Like, it was two bad first-round picks, Larry Nance and Dyson Daniels. I think that if the Cavs were offered that for Darius Garland, saying no would have been the right thing. I've got one more thing, because I disagree with this spicy take, maybe even a little more than I disagreed with Nick's. So I've got one more thing that I want to ask when we come back right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show brought to you by Gametime. Gametime, of course, is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, and that makes getting tickets to baseball games faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. Cleveland Guardians have a big weekend this weekend at Progressive Field. CC Sabathia getting inducted into the Team Hall of Fame. You want to be there for that moment, see CC become a member of the Cleveland Baseball Hall of Fame? Gametime is the place to go if you want to get tickets, if you want to be there on Saturday night. Or, there's some other stuff going on in Cleveland Saturday night that you might want to be at. Gametime is going to be the place for you to get tickets. They've got last minute deals, all-in prices too. This is a very important thing. On some of these apps, you can say, oh, that looks like a great deal. And then you go to check out and I didn't see those taxes before. Where'd those fees come from? Gametime doesn't have that. Plus, when you select the seat you want, it's going to show you what the stage looks like, the field, the court, the rink, whatever it is for the event you're going to. You are going to know exactly what your view looks like. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets to Major League Baseball games. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So I do think that the fit between Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell is something that is absolutely worth thinking about in terms of if this core four can fit together. I think that is something very worth thinking about. But Matt, I want to read you off some numbers and I want to ask you basically if this would be an acceptable season for Darius Garland. Like if you would be happy with him having these numbers after the nightmare that was last year.
Sure.
We're going to go.
Is your 22 cat in there real quick?
My cat is in here. Yes, my cat will.
I looked at Nick. I was like, "Do you hear the cat?" I think it's. Is it Joey? Is it
yes.
Joey?
No, it's not Joey. It's Woo. Woo will come in here, and she will she'll purr as loud as she can. Sometimes she'll jump up on the table. It is so distracting sometimes.
I was dying.
Like I have to have my hands down by my feet as I'm sitting here. So she can ram her head into me. That's what goes on behind the scenes here.
I thought I was losing my mind. I'm like, I think I hear the cat, but I was like, I wasn't sure.
I swear
it's the reunion everybody wants. So that's everybody wants to be a part of the reunion.
As you're doing the live read, all I heard was meow.
I look at Nick. I'm like, was that the cat? I was like, did you hear the cat? I think
yes.
I was like, yep.
All right, sorry.
I looked at that. I was like, yeah, there it is.
I was like, I think it is. That's
amazing. That's amazing. So let's say Darius Garland averages 22 points a game,
Okay.
8 assists a game, shoots 41% from 3 on 7 3-pointers a game, shoots, we'll say just under 50% from the floor. How would you feel about those numbers from Darius Garland?
I feel like that'd be pretty solid. I think the only thing I'd probably maybe have 22 is a lot. Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
So that's essentially what he averaged his first year with Donovan Mitchell. He was 21.6, had 7.8 assists, shot 41% from 3, took 6 a game, so maybe you up it by a little bit to take 7, because I think that's where they will increase that under Kenny Atkinson. But to me, I think that if you are willing to look past what just this nightmare of a season was, with everything that happened with him, and look at how those two played together, because you also have to remember Donovan Mitchell was an all-NBA player while that was going on with him in the backcourt. So it's not, I think that first year together showed me that these two can coexist. I think that offensively they can make it work. Do there need to be tweaks? Of course there need to be tweaks. They're not perfect. But I think that they can coexist. And that's why I don't think they made a mistake here, especially when you take into account just his value being at an all-time low.
So the value on the all-time low, here's one thing I'm just food for thought here, right? So I get what you guys are saying, right? Like that if he goes out there and he proves, that he could turn it around or things like that. As far as his value, though, like right now, the excuse could be, or another team that, like the Spurs that are trying to trade for him, they're probably talking themselves into the same thing with the Cavs, right? It was a bad season. All the things you ran through, right? Danny's like, it's bad season, lost the weight, broken jaw, all that kind of stuff. If he goes out there and stinks it up for 2 months, now you've got no excuses. Now there really is, everybody goes, wow, maybe he is really broken. That is when the trade value would become even less than what it is right now. Right now, it's still unknown if this is the true, because here's the whole thing, right? We need to find out who is the true version of Darius Garland. Is it, like you were saying, the guy that was here when Donovan Mitchell was here? Is it even the guy that when he was an all-star when Donovan Mitchell wasn't here? Or is it the guy that we saw this past season post-injury? Now, we have a much larger sample size of him being better than what he was this past season. I'm concerned that he might not get back to that. So when I factor in the guard play, which again, could they make that work? Sure. But when you factor in the guard play and the factor that I really am afraid, guys, that he's not going to be the same guy. He can't get back to that same level. And if you run it back like they're going to do, and 2 months in, it's the same thing, or he gets hurt again, now you're stuck on a guy who signed a max deal and he is broke. Like we have a real problem on our hands. All that stuff factor, and I'll fully admit, right? What does this make it sound like? I'm scared. I'm afraid.
You're terrified.
I'm terrified that he's not going to get back to the player that he was. So I'm going to make the move. I'm going to move on, from it, just because I kind of am a little afraid.
See, and I get where you're coming from in the mindset of, it was so bad this year. There's a very high probability that it could get worse. Again, I'm with Danny. I don't know how much worse it could get because, you saw, not career low numbers, but pretty damn close. And that's something that, I think that Kenny's going to, again, I have a good enough amount of faith in Kenny Atkinson to come in and do what he needs to do with the core four. Outside of the core four, I don't know. But you are looking at 4 potential all-stars, 3 for sure. Evan still needs to get there. But I don't know if trading Darius Garland, which, again, your hot take was that they should have moved off of Darius Garland this offseason. Again, the guy was coming off of a terrible year. Danny pointed all of the points out there for it. I just don't know if it could get any worse for him. There's a possibility, Matt, but it was as bad as it could get this year. Him breaking his face and getting smacked every other week, it felt like is an issue, but I feel like coming off of the injury and having an off season to let it settle, it should ease his mind to be able to go into the paint and not freak out and dribble around all the time. If there's any issues that I have with Darius Garland, it's the dribbling. It's I got to have the ball at all times. He needs to play more of an off-ball base because Donovan should be the guy that controls the rock majority of the time. So if he learns how to do that, if he can learn how to be more of a spot-up shooter, which I'm not saying he needs to be Klay Thompson in the corner, but if he can develop that area of his game, I feel much better about the Cavs going forward.
Well, and the other thing that'll do, Nick, because I agree with you, I think he needs to be taking more catch and shoot 3-point looks. The other thing that will do is that'll cut down on some of his turnovers. And last year he had 3.1 turnovers per game, which wasn't a career high. And not all turnovers are created equally, obviously, and you two know that. And I think everyone watching and listening knows that too, because the year he made the All-Star team, he averaged 3.6 turnovers a game. So when you've got the basketball in your hands, you're going to make mistakes at times. But I do think he needs to cut down on those and increase the volume of the catch and shoot 3-pointers that he takes, because if that is the case, and I mentioned, the year he was successful with Donovan, he took 6 threes a game. This past year, he actually took 6.2 3-pointers a game. If you can get that number up to 7 or 7.5, and for reference, the year he made the All-Star team, it was at 6.7 3-point attempts per game. If that gets up to 7, 7.5, or 8, I think that you feel really good about the year that he's having or going to have.
Yeah, and that's all I need him to do. To Nick's point, like the dribbling is something I think he's solid at when he needs to run the point. But that's the thing. You just need him to shoot. You just need him to be a 3-point shooter. If Donovan Mitchell is going to be your lead guard and being able to slash and attack, you have to have another outside threat other than Max Strus play meaningful minutes. Evan Mobley, not there yet. If you're going to keep running with Jared Allen, it's not coming from there. I strictly need Darius Garland to be a shooter. That's it. All I need him is to shoot threes. And maybe that kind of goes hand in hand with keeping him out of the paint. Stop him from getting hit in the face every time. Just be like, dude, we're actually just going to leave you on the outside here. But, again, the height, little concern. He can't obviously create his own shot, which is great. And if you really need him to, he can bring the ball up the court to take some pressure off Donovan Mitchell. I'd love to be wrong. And I'd love 2 months into this season for me to go, man, I'm so glad they didn't trade Darius Garland away. Where would we be without him? And I'd love to, I would hope for him to turn it around. I just think it's going to be a big mountain to climb for him. Just even on, like you guys said, the mental side of things, how does he fit in? And also, I think the shift that he kind of had to have that realization, this is not going to be his team. Where there was a time he was making an all-star team and him and Jared Allen, and he thought, this is my squad now. Well, wait a minute. Here comes Evan Mobley. Well, eventually he'll get there. Oh, wait, now here comes Donovan Mitchell. I'm second fiddle, maybe even third fiddle, especially on the rankings of importance for the Cavs' future. It's definitely Evan Mobley being 2. So I think that was a little bit of adjustment for Garland, and maybe that's why that trade request came out. Maybe that was just an emotional response for understanding the situation that they're in, and cooler heads prevailed. Now he's all on board, but I just think there's a lot of things with Darius Garland. Hopefully the time away was what he needed, just to reset, come on back, get back to that all-star level. But to your point, Danny, what you're bringing about the 3-point shooting, I agree. I just need him to shoot. That's it.
Right. I want to close the show with the take that you guys have on the other 2 members of the Core 4. You've both mentioned it. I want to dive into that as we wrap up on today's Locked On Cavs. Thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. Again, you can find the show wherever you get podcasts, Spotify, Apple. Leave us a 5-star review. Also, check us out on YouTube. Hit that like button if you're watching the video and you haven't hit it already. Also, make sure you are subscribed and click that notification bell too. So, guys, you both mentioned to some extent, Nick, I think you're a little bit more into this than Matt is, but Jared Allen and Evan Mobley working together and figuring that out. And Nick, I want to start with you here, but why do you think that will be successful for the Cavs?
To me, it's solely based on Kenny Atkinson. Him being around Jared Allen, and basically in the presser, he was talking about Jared Allen, saying, he loves the guy, loved working with him, and I mean, he's a solid player. He had one of his better seasons this year. I mean, he was a double machine. Now in the playoffs, things happened. It probably, if it were up to me, I would have requested that in, and you can only tell a guy to take a shot so many times, but like, hey man, we need you out there, please give it a go. He, declined on that. That probably rubbed JB the wrong way. It certainly did. We know that, but I feel like Jared Allen had one of his better seasons, and Evan Mobley again is what we hope becomes an ascending star. And under Kenny's tutelage, hopefully he's able to develop into the superstar that we need him to be. And then you have Jared Allen playing essentially fourth fiddle in this roster. And if he's your fourth best player, as what we hope he becomes, I feel very comfortable about the two big guys in that sort of rotation and that mindset.
Yeah, I think for me, it's mostly, like you said, Kenny Atkinson meet Evan Mobley. Like, of all your job, and I know you got to win games and you got to figure this stuff out, that development had to be one of the biggest hiring points for bringing Atkinson in. I think for Jared Allen, and Danny, you would obviously know better than me on just, how many guys do you really think are defensive-minded first in the NBA, right? Like, where you can look at somebody, I'm not saying that they can't be good offensive players as well, but I guess my point is, I can give you 15 names of guys that can score, right? Defense is a premium, and you're going to need to play it eventually. So that's just what I like so much about Jared Allen, where he is that true center. I don't need him to be stepping out. Now, Evan Mobley, if he can just develop that mid-range, a little bit of a three kind of shot, 3 threes a game from him is fine. Shooting, whatever, near 40% would be fantastic. I know it's a high mark, but like, shoot a couple of threes, get that mid-range game going, and him playing as a true forward. Now, there's a lot of people in the NBA circles who say, what? Cavs are better off with him at the 5 because he is so good on the defensive side of things and what he can do to create space, the speed that they can play with, because what do we know about Kenny Atkinson? What does he want to do? They want to play with pace. So I think that is more of like, I'm intrigued to see the molding of that. Like, I believe in the process. Like, I believe in the starting raw materials of Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. I'm excited to see how they kind of create that. I kind of have questions on how the guards are going to fit together, so that's maybe not the optimism that I share there. But for Mobley and Allen, I'm really excited that they're, A, number one, both here, like the fact that Jared Allen is still here, and B, I'm really excited to see what Kenny Atkinson can do and kind of mold their games.
That's interesting because I have more questions about the front court. Like, I wonder if they're truly going to get Evan Mobley to reach his full potential, which I think is as high, if not higher, than anyone on the roster still. I wonder if he's going to be able to hit his potential not playing center. He doesn't have to play 100% of his minutes at center, but if he's not playing 75% of his minutes at center, I wonder if they're going to be able to get the most out of him. So that I do think it's a really interesting question. Like, I'm pretty much the opposite of you, Matt, to where you don't have a ton of faith in the backcourt being able to figure it out. I don't necessarily have a ton of faith in the front court being able to figure out. I don't know that they're going to be able to play as fast as they want to play with two bigs on the floor. I know both bigs are athletic and can run, but that's a genuine question I have. I don't know if they're going to find enough space to be successful offensively with both those guys playing, because even if Evan Mobley's taking 3 a game, I still don't think teams are going to defend him in the playoffs, and that's ultimately when this is going to matter. So that's sort of where I'm at with it. I have more questions about the front court than the back court, Matt.
Yeah, and like I said, I get where you're coming from, and that's kind of what I was saying, the excitement that I have to see if it works together. I've got to have the openness that it might not work together. And they're kind of, I think on both of them, they're kind of zigging while the rest of the league is zagging, right? Like, you have this luxury, so to speak, of you have these 4 guys here. You're trying to make it work. In reality, if you were doing a fantasy draft or if you were redrafting in the NBA, nobody would have a team assembled this way, right? Nobody would. You'd want more wings. Right. You'd want more shooters. But that's the situation that you're in. You're trying to make the best that you can out of it. And you're right. There's totally a world that Allen and Mobley don't work together, and Allen will be the one on the way out the door. But I think there's just probably more for me to grab onto. Yeah, I'm victim of the moment too, because when Jared Allen was playing and he was healthy, like Nick said, he was a machine, and he had one of the better seasons that he's had. So I'm a little victim of the moment on that. I guess there's just a little more excitement for me to see what the big guys can do.
Nick, do you have anything to follow up on that as we get out of here?
I just hear the kitty.
I just hear the cat.
I just hear the cat.
Does the cat have anything to say about what I had to say? No.
She has way too much to say. She has way too much to say.
With
locked on cats coming to the network.
I don't know how I'm going to top that. I was just going to say, hey, I'm hopeful Evan Mobley figures it out. I'm hoping Darius Garland is able to right the wrongs of this past year. And again, as down as I've been on Jared Allen in the past, he showed me a lot last year. Now in the playoffs, we ran into some issues again, but in the regular season, I feel very confident about that. And then Donovan Mitchell, I mean, I truly believe he is the second greatest Cavalier of all time. Hot take or not, that's how I feel. And now that he's re-signed, I feel very good.
Lukewarm take.
I don't think that's a hot take. I think that is about as accurate as the takes can come, guys. Good. I can't believe it had been a year since all three of us had been on something together. This was a real treat. I'm glad we got to do this. Truly, I hope we get to do this often. This was a blast. It certainly brought a smile to my face. Hopefully it brought a smile to a lot of other faces out there. So thank you two so much for taking the time out of your days to do this. Again, you can find the Matt Fontana Show on Big Play every day, 9 to 11 a.m. You can check Nick out at ESPN Cleveland. He does a bunch of different stuff over there. He will be covering the Cavs in some capacity, I'm sure, throughout this season. So make sure you find him on Twitter at Nick Paulus. Matt Fontana is on Twitter at MattFontana83. Again, you can find me on Twitter at RealD Cunningham. And thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. Again, leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Also, search the show on YouTube. Just search Locked On Cavs. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like this video if you haven't yet. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. And once again, thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day.